Avengers! Assemble.
Hello everyone and welcome to Excelsior, the world's #1 Marvel's Avengers podcast. I'm your director, Christian Buckley, joined by the Apex legend, Jack Martin, for the week of September 26 is when this comes out.
Excelsior, Christian, we can finally play more of the game now that it's somewhat fixed.
I know, right? We can finally pick it up again. And let me tell you, after the 1.3 patch last week, I was excited to check it out again, and then I heard about this bug we're going to get to that scared me off, but we're going to get to all of that. How are you? How's your avenging going?
It's good. The one complaint I have from this patch, it honestly has saddened me greatly. Mm-hmm. I no longer hear that I'm seriously the best 1,000 times.
Well, to supplement that, this show, of course, releases on YouTube and podcast services, but the YouTube comments is where the agents of Excelsior can go to talk about the topics with us on the show, get their voices read out loud on the show, including one Adam Delisle, who said, seriously, you're the best. So, maybe if the patch is fixed, maybe Adam just shows up every week in the comments and just says that for you.
Adam, that'd be great. But seriously, Adam, you're the best.
Oh, for sure. But this week we got a lot to talk about, including 2 patches. The one we missed just by a hair last week, including a new one that is out now. Of course, we're going to run through the priority missions for the week, what you have to know going into those. A new prequel novel that's been announced. Touch on what we're at, what our feelings are with the game right now. And, of course, we're going to close out with Stark Realities, talking about 2 specific topics that we've seen floating around the community recently. But, Jack, why don't we start off for Fury's Report with patch 1.3, the mythical patch we talked about for 2 episodes in a row that dropped almost, not immediately, but within 3 hours of finishing recording, that thing dropped.
The nature of podcasting. We're always going to miss something.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I don't think there's much to say there. There was a full list that released. I skimmed through it just to see if we should cancel plans to immediately try to just get some other information in the episode, but it was really just a lot of visual or small performance hiccup patches because I don't know if you saw this headline, but it fixed over 1,000 issues in the game.
Yeah, that... I remember looking through the patch notes and being like, oh boy.
Yeah.
I can't even think of 1,000 things to... I mean, obviously there's a ton of stuff wrong with the game, or there was, so that's crazy how they went in there. But for me, at least, it didn't fix, and we were saying this before the recording, didn't fix a ton of the stuff that we were hoping that it would fix. But I guess the next patch we'll talk about did come in and fix some of the things we were discussing.
Right. And, I think... Obviously, there is something you can say of, why was there 1,000 issues to begin with, but, it mostly smoothed out a lot of things. The bigger issues, of course, that we talked about in depth last week, like the villain sector issue, and just a couple other pretty major things that halted our progression. Those were addressed in patch 1.3.1, which is now available by the time you're listening to this. Dropped on Thursday. The biggest thing, Jack, we're going to get to your thing about not being able to get resources or whatever that was. The biggest thing is that Captain America can break down those breakable doors now.
That's wild. I didn't realize that until I saw the document here that you have pulled up, but I feel like that should have been a day one thing.
Right? If you're a super soldier, throw the shield, it should break the half-broken door.
Honestly, I feel like any hero should be able to do any one of those door opening tasks. If you're an Avenger, you should be able to have the hacking ability to open a random door or smash down an already sort of broken door. Come on.
Yeah, because the hack one I get based on who can and can't do it. It's Thor is dumb, he doesn't understand technology, Hulk can't think. But One, I feel like you could just make an animation, and I know like making an animation is a lot of work, but like I feel like you could just have Thor overcharge the terminal to get the doors open, and then Hulk could just
Hmm.
rip the doors open still, right? Like there's ways you can conceptualize that to make sense in the canon, I guess.
Yeah, it's for me, it's kind of just silly that that wasn't a thing. So it's good that they're at least recognizing that now.
Yeah. So Cap also got a few other tweaks. Thor got some tweaks in this patch as well in terms of control and making everything a little tighter. But of course, the big issue that you were bringing up to the table last week is that picking up villain sectors and your dailies were not possible, and you needed those to get DNA keys so you could open DNA chests to get you the exotic resources. Those are now fully functional. You're going to be able to go in there, get your villain sectors, get your dailies, no issue. The reset's going to work. How do you feel about this?
I'm relieved. It's a weird feeling because I walked in today not knowing, and I booted up the game for the first time in a couple days, and I went to check the vendor, and I was like, of course this isn't gonna happen, or like the faction leader, and I was like, obviously, like I'm just used to it. It's been like 2 or 3 weeks at this point, or however long it's been, and then I walk up and I see it, and I was like, oh man, I can actually play the game now. So yeah, I was pretty excited about that. So happy that they're doing that, and happy that they like were aware of it and like kind of gave us stuff for it. If you want to talk about that next.
Sure, yeah. In the post that detailed patch 1.3.1, Crystal said, "We recognize and apologize that this bug prevented players from being able to earn specific rare rewards, and as such, are granting the following to all players: 250 Polychoron and 500 Uru. So you can redeem those until October 1st. All you have to do is go over to any challenge card for any of your heroes, and then they will pop for you. But yeah, I feel like that is a lot of resources. Like, I don't know how much you'd have to be. How much of that would, like, actually. How far would
I
that get you? That feels like a lot.
So the Uru is like less rare. You can buy 10 for 30 resources and you can find them on the map. The Polychoron was specifically, I was dumbfounded by the amount that they gave us because doing one of the faction assignments nets you one Polychoron. And I haven't done the villain sectors in a while, so I don't know how much they give you for doing that, but I think you get like a little bit more than what you do with the assignments. But still, like, that's a ton, and I was like grinding for my Black Widow artifact, and I immediately like boosted it to 10. So I was quite happy with that number that they gave us. So yeah, that's the resource that takes the most amount of grinding to do, because it's based on daily things that you have to do each day. So yeah, I was definitely happy that they gave us that particular resource.
Yeah, so if you're listening and you have not invested in the major artifact yet, and you're waiting on it, or you didn't want to do that grind, you lucked out, because now I feel like that's probably enough to get the major artifact at least halfway through it, right?
Yeah, it's a significant amount. So
Yeah.
happy about that.
Also, I don't think we talked about this last week because the Mega Hive, no, right, the Mega Hive opened last weekend, right? So the Mega Hive was made available for players last weekend. That is the 14 total floor Mega Hive, correct? And it's like split up among like a couple different hives, but you just can't do anything else in between them. Right? It's very weird, right? It's not like a full gauntlet. It's just like, okay, try
It's
this. Now you're
it's just
brought
a
out.
super long hive essentially. So like you were saying, the 14 floors, it's just 14 floors of a hive, pretty
Yeah.
much.
So people had a lot of issue with that, and we're gonna touch on that later on, specifically the concept of it. But you struggled through that thing. How long did it take you?
Wait, remind me. So there's one particular hive. I think it's the elite heroic hive that I was just mentioning. Apologies. That was the 14 level one. And then there's the mega hive, which is the gauntlet style one, which is, yeah, so it's essentially like 8 rounds of 5 floors of a hive. So you do one hive, which is five floors, 8 times essentially, and
Gotcha.
you have to do it with your roster of your team. And if one member goes down, you can't use them any longer. So like if I was using Iron Man and he went down in like floor 3, I would have to switch to like my Black Widow, and then continue on throughout the rest of the gauntlet. So like it's very challenging, but I did get through it with my Iron Man because for him he's my ranged character, so I can just stay back and take no hits essentially. So I kind of played it safe.
Nice. Do you have like a time estimate of how long that took?
Oh man, I would say probably a few hours,
Damn.
like two to three maybe.
Well, many people, one of my friends included, attempted this and had some game crashes, so they reset their progress.
Oof.
They had a couple other technical issues that prevented them from continuing and having to reset. But I think the most devastating thing for a lot of people, yourself included, is that the rewards were not worth it.
Yeah, that was a huge letdown of it, because I remember talking to you before and I was like, what do I even get from this? And you were like, you have the potential to get an exotic, and I was like, okay, that's cool. And then I went through all of it, which it took around like 2 to 3, maybe even longer. I will always say this, I'm really bad at like telling how long I've played a game, but
Yeah,
I went through it all, and I got just what I would get from a regular hive, like resources and like maybe legendary gear, but no exotics.
Yeah, so I checked when you texted me at first of like, hey, what do I get for doing this? And then I checked the time from then and from the time when you said I finished, and I think it was almost like 4.5.
Damn.
So it was a while.
Time wasted.
Yeah, but according to this update for patch 1.3.1, they messed with the loot tables, so you're going to have better drops. I saw a video on the subreddit of somebody looking at the rewards they got for doing the Mega Hive, and it was a lot of golds. I didn't see many exotics, but I saw a lot of golds. So definitely worth doing now, in addition to the resources. I believe you still have a chance of getting an exotic, but if you want to get a lot of legendary gear in one drop, that's probably the way to do it.
Yeah.
So
I'm still convinced that exotic gear doesn't exist outside of major artifacts. I haven't seen one.
Man, I would believe it. I remember a couple, I think last week, actually it might have been 2 weeks ago now, but I saw somebody on my Twitter timeline basically post like, hey, I got an exotic. And it was like an article. It wasn't like just a tweet. It was like, oh, look I found this. So yeah, I don't know how frequent that is. I don't know what the drop rate is like, but I have not found any yet, certainly. So they did also tease the next patch that we will be getting in the near future, they said. That's the patch that's going to be adding a ping system, adjustable subtitle sizes, toggling icons to always be on for your other heroes, as well as a high contrast mode, which I don't know if that's an accessibility feature or if that's just something to make the game more colorful or what, but that's what you can look forward to in terms of the major buzzwords for the next patch, including probably a bunch of bug fixes.
Yeah, that sounds great, especially with like the ping system and the icons and stuff like that. Like when this game launched, it felt decidedly old, and like not in how it played, but like I guess the systems behind what was going on, right? Like when you launch into like a modern multiplayer game, there's like certain expectations with some of the things that games like Apex Legends and even like Fortnite and stuff have like introduced in terms of like ping systems and working with your team and like the compass on top and stuff like that. And none of that was there at the launch, and it felt really odd, and it felt like a 5-year-old game in terms of that perspective. So it's good that they're adding that here.
Yeah, so I'm hopeful. They've been pretty much updating, and these patches have been coming at a pretty quick rate compared to something like an Anthem, which granted I only saw on the outside, but this seems a lot more, hey, we're listening, hey, we're communicating. Maybe it's not super frequently, but I feel like there's been notable improvements to talk about almost every week at this point. So that makes me happy.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that that'll continue. Given that we've seen a pretty quick turnaround, I think that's reasonable to expect.
Yeah. So that's it for the patch information. So why don't we run through the priority missions of the week? These are available now. The first up is the minimum power level one. That is the Inhuman Condition. Do you remember off the top of your head what mission that was?
I don't. I don't. I'm thinking it might be in Utah somewhere.
I was gonna say I think it's the Hulk and Kamala in Russia with the Abomination Lab.
That's possible.
So the modifiers are Blizzard, so ice hazards are added to the environment, cryo damage from enemies and the environment are increased. Scourge, significantly increased presence of prime synthoids, and Fireball, plasma damage from players is increased. You're guaranteed epic gear. The high level priority mission is Our Town, which is the one in Utah that is like kind of the suburb with the AIM base next door. That one is recommended 120 for the minimum power level, and the modifiers are Famine, so enemies don't drop their regen packs. Goliath, significantly increased presence of exos. Bane, significantly increased presence of adaptoids. And Supercharged, all heroic abilities charge faster and inflict more damage. I like that modifier.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Those remind me of like the modifiers in the Arkham City challenge rooms where like some could be positive and some could be negative. Mm-hmm. They got the same sort of vibe going on here.
Yeah, I forget what the modifier is called, but in Destiny 2 for the Nightfalls and like the strikes every week, there's one that lets your grenades charge like constantly, so you can get through the entire dungeon just spamming grenades, and it's the best thing.
Ooh, that's cool.
So, and for that one, your guaranteed reward is Polychoron and hero-specific gear for your first run. In addition to that, the Priority Harm challenges for the week will grant you 2011's Captain America 19, which grants you a 0.5% heroic charge rate increase. And yeah, that's what you're looking at for priority stuff this week. I'll ask you this: how fast do you normally like direct your attention to the priority stuff for the week? Do you like just get to it when you get to it, or is that a top on the list?
It's not a top on the list, but when I'm browsing through the missions and the regions, the ones that I see that aren't checked off, I do look at, and honestly, like for me, they don't display them in a way that I even know they're the priority mission, right? Like we've talked about like having like different tabs for different missions, like that isn't present right now, so it isn't until I like actually like hover over it and see that it says priority mission on it that I'm like, oh, I guess I should be doing this. So yeah, it doesn't really catch my eye at first. It's usually like after like the villain sectors or whatever I'm doing that I actually like go to do those sorts of missions.
Yeah, I think normally the way I approach it is I'll do the low level ones as soon as the first time I sign on after the reset, just to get some guaranteed gear and resources. But I usually save the high level ones for whenever my friends are on, and it's like, oh hey, did you want to play Avengers? Sure, yeah, let's do the high level content together.
Nice.
But yeah, that's what you're looking at for missions this week. There is one more item on Fury's report that is very strange to me. This just seems kind of out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. They announced a book, as in a novel with multiple hundred pages that is a prequel to this story.
I really had to like narrow down with you when we were talking about this before the show. I was like, so like a big book, like not with pictures, like that strikes me as strange in a way for a Marvel property. Like I can't think of many Marvel books that are like 300-page, 400-page books. Like that really took me off guard.
Like I know my girlfriend read a Loki book, like a novel that is Marvel Loki, and I know Kevin, the co-host of the Jokeless Gamescast, read the Spider-Man Hostile Takeover book, which was a prequel to the Spider-Man video game. But that released before the game. This is out, like, this week.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, let me read through the synopsis of it. It's called Marvel's Avengers: The Extinction Key. Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Black Widow, and the Hulk. Earth's mightiest heroes have assembled to face world-class threats whenever and wherever they may appear. They are the Avengers. Yet some threats transcend the ages. Centuries ago, a never-before-seen group of heroes gathered as the Avengers of their ancient era to fight the Zodiac, foes who wielded unimaginable arcane energies channeled through a mysterious key. The resulting battle devastated vast swaths of the planet. The key was lost and the Zodiac went into hiding, influencing world events from the shadows, waiting for the stars to align to usher in their return. When strange beings exhibiting the traits of the 12 astrological signs appear in the 21st century, the Avengers again answer the call to assemble. But when this modern team of heroes are forced to divide their efforts, each encounter leads to their opponents gaining strength. Once again, the hunt is on for the Extinction Key, and if the Avengers don't find it, our world will be lost. End. That's weird.
Yeah, that's I think I'm gonna pass on that one, unless we want to read it for content. But it seems weird that they chose to do a whole book, given that they did a prequel comic series, which I think was effective in setting up the world. And the fact that they're doing a whole book and doing this whole weird thing where there was an Avengers centuries ago, apparently.
Yep.
That's a little strange to me. I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah. So like honestly, if they were gonna do some sort of supplemental novel, I would have preferred them publishing Kamala Khan's fan fiction, I think.
Oh, definitely, dude.
Like do you see a world where this is teasing future content? Like do you think this is some year two, the Zodiac return and they're the main enemy? Like why?
Yeah, so I think this is just to get people to buy books. Honestly, like
Sure.
there's this weird section of fandom where people like will go and read the Rise of Skywalker novel or like the Star Wars Episode X book, which for me is odd. But I think it's trying to capture that. Like I think the Star Wars books are successful. The ones that sort of branch off from the narrative or talk about characters in greater detail than they've been talked about before. But this, like, for the Marvel's Avengers universe, all the content that I want it in the video game form, right? I want it in, like, expansions and DLC and stuff like that. And, yeah, like, it's set up as a video game universe, so I want to experience that content in a video game rather than a book.
Yeah, I agree. Like, listen, I'll read a book once in a while, but like, this isn't the type of medium I want this take explored on. And the weird thing is, it's not even this take. It's like, it's in canon of this take, but it feels like it's very much not. So, if anything, I think just remember the name the Zodiac as a faction and see if that pops up again in the next year or two.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch like an IGN 3-minute video being like, "Who's the Zodiac?" and they have like Joshua Yale explain the book details for me. I that always happens for me. So
yeah, so we'll see if anything comes to that. But that does it for Fury's report this week. So Jack, what's your team looking like right now? Who you got? Who you focusing on? Power level, missions you're running. What's the deal with your experience this past week?
sure. So as always, I got my Iron Man level 150, of course. I will say, like, I use Iron Man to breeze through hives and stuff. I'm going after the 50 hive trophy, which
Nice.
takes forever. I think I'm at around 30. And for Iron Man, I just am in the air. I breeze past enemies to like get to control points to open up doors quickly and like ignore sections if I can to just get through it. So that's what I've been doing with Iron Man. And Black Widow right now is a level 149 power level. And I'm literally, like, by the time this is posted, I will be 150 because I'm just 10 upgrade modules behind upgrading my last gear. So that's where I'm at. And I will probably before next episode, start a Captain America, third to have him in the rotation.
Nice.
Just because like if we run into the situation where my first two options are taken, then I'll have my third option in Captain America. So yeah, what about you, Christian? How have you been playing this game?
So here's the thing. I'm still focusing on Thor. I've reached the soft level cap, so I've passed 130. I'm at 133 with my thank you. 133 with my major artifact. Now here's the thing. Seeing how quickly they ended up releasing the content, seeing that we're right around the corner from October, considering I think if she plays well, my main is going to be Kate Bishop.
That's exciting.
I don't know if I want to dive in fully to get another max level character. I might want to save that energy for her. Get Thor up there. Maybe I end up maining both of them because, man, I really love how Thor plays. But I don't know if I want to go all in on Captain America right now if Kate is like a couple weeks away,
Yeah.
So, that being said, my Black Widow is a level 47 right now, so she's very close to hitting at least the main level cap. Cap, I think, is around 28, so Widow's definitely going to be that third for me between Thor, Kate, and Widow, like you said for Cap being your third, but yeah, I want to give them a little more time before I commit to really going in on another character in the base roster.
Awesome. Now, real quick,
Mm-hmm.
where are you with your challenge cards? Like, where do you think your highest progressed challenge card is at right now?
Definitely Thor. And I want to say, so it's out of 200 points. I think this could be completely wrong, but I want to say I'm like past 60 or 70 with Thor.
Okay.
So,
Nice.
What about you?
I checked for Iron Man at least today. That's by far like the highest I've progressed. I think I'm at like 173 out of 200, and
Nice.
the 2 weekly challenges I have are super easy and I can do in like, I don't know, less than 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So with that and with a daily, I'll have that completed. And
Awesome,
then
dude.
yeah, and then Black Widow I think is in a similar situation. So maybe by next episode I'll have both of those done. And then I think Cap is like past 100. I've been actually like trying to keep track of like like at least 3 or 4 of my hero challenge cards just so I can like get resources and I won't have to think of it after. So yeah,
Get those MTX money.
yeah, definitely. So yeah, those are pretty much taken care of, and then I'll start to shift focus to the characters I don't really play as much.
Nice. Any... Well, I was going to bring up one thing because I did do a couple villain sectors this week. But I'll say this first. My specific thing, the reason I don't have a lot to update on this week is because I did see a bug. I think it only happened to 4 people on the planet Earth.
Oh, tell me about it.
They lost all of their progress.
Really?
Yes, and it was like you could not fix it.
How does that even happen? Like
I
in a
don't
multiplayer
know.
game, like isn't that saved in their servers or anything?
Yeah, I don't know if it was like a mismanagement on the aspect of the players as well or what, but it seemed like it was a random thing. And again, it only happened to like a handful of people. But man, I did not want to risk it. I was like, you know what? I think a new patch is coming soon, so I'll just hold off. I will not do a ton this week.
Yeah, that's fair. That's really scary.
Yeah. So I believe whatever the issue was fixed as well in this new patch, but I'll be playing more this weekend. But something I wanted to bring up from doing the villain sectors is I think they're fun. It's like fun content when they let you do it, but
When they let you do it, yeah.
I kind of have reached a point where just fighting Abomination and Taskmaster is a little boring right now.
It is. It really is. And it just like, highlights the sort of repetition in this game. And it's just like, really, like, Taskmaster's not even all that interesting, and neither is Abomination. You know, like it's just kind of boring, especially after it's like rinse, wash, repeat over and over again.
Mm-hmm. So, hopefully, well, we do know that all the heroes are going to be adding a villain, so hopefully Kate comes with a villain, and so is Clint. But yeah, the constant swapping between the Metal Gear and then Abomination or Taskmaster is getting. I'm definitely feeling it at this point. It's like my eyes kind of glaze over if I do a villain sector, and I'm just chatting with my friends now.
Absolutely.
So,
oh, do you want to talk about our co-op session we had with Kevin real quick?
oh sure, yeah.
Because we encountered a couple issues.
Yeah, so I think the main thing was just trying to get into the session with each other. Like, I know the game's been having some matchmaking issues, but we weren't even doing that. Like, you sent me an invite, and I just could not load in. Like, I was in the helicarrier, I was waiting for the game to fully go through and just get me into the lobby that you invited me to. I accepted the invitation. It refused to do anything. Meanwhile, all of this even began because we started a mission together, Yumi Kevin, and then I got booted out of it. And going on my point last week of I don't know why we can't just rejoin a session. I couldn't rejoin a session, so you guys had to back out and then invite me again. It was a mess.
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier today, and I was comparing it in my head to when I would do with my friends back in the day. We would try to get the Halo Vidmaster achievements, which would net you this super rare armor called Recon armor that you can only get by doing like all of the Vidmasters in Halo 3 and Halo 3 ODST. And I remember like very frequently I had really bad internet connection back then, so bad that if someone called my house, I would lag out. Like that's how bad it was. So there was a point where I would like unplug my phones when I was trying to do that. But there were times where I would lag out and that would be it. Like we'd be like through the middle of it and I would lag out and that'd be done. And it strikes me as something like that where it's like, man, that's a 13-year-old game at this point. And the Avengers has like a similar issue where like you can't just join back in the middle of it. Like it really makes no sense. Like that should be something you should be able to do in the year 2020.
Definitely. And it's funny you talk about Halo as the example. Destiny, right? Again, because we all know I've played Destiny. When I was in college and was on campus Wi-Fi, occasionally every maybe 2 hours I'd get hit with the baboon status, which just kicks me out of the game for like losing some internet stability or something. And running like this was at Destiny 2 launch. I had this issue, so I was like constantly playing the game, always getting kicked out, but I was still able to rejoin my fire team, right? So like I definitely think it's doable, and I'm just waiting on that day where we get a patch note and it's like, oh hey, you can rejoin missions now, because like it feels like something that should be implemented at some point.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things that I'll cop it up to the game releasing too early. Like,
yeah,
I think if this had another 6 months to be in development, this wouldn't be an issue. At least I don't think. It's really unfortunate, and it shows its age. Like I was saying earlier, this game when it launched kind of felt like a 5-year-old game. Like it sort of released in an echo chamber where it wasn't taking like the sort of multiplayer aspects of popular games and implementing them in here to have better ease of use and stuff like that. So hopefully this time next year, this game will feel a lot better, and hopefully even before that it will.
Sure, yeah. And I think it will. Like, we touched on it before, but, like, they've been communicating at Crystal at a very good pace. They've been updating the community pretty consistently. There was a small stretch of time where people started saying, at least on the subreddit, like, oh, this is the new Anthem. Why are they being so silent? But I think the community manager came out pretty shortly after and was like, hey, we're listening. We're trying to do everything we can right now. We promise something's coming. So, like, again, I have faith, but there's definitely still issues right now.
Absolutely.
So, with that brings us to our closing segment, Stark Realities. Now, speaking of the community and displeasure, we touched on this a little earlier. We teased this before. There was a discourse in the Avengers community over the past week about the Mega Hive. Now, as it stands, the Mega Hive is the only guaranteed content you can run to get some of the highest level gear and rewards in the game. And I've seen two sides of this. The major dissenting side is like, hey, I don't know why in this game that does multiplayer well and was sold on being a multiplayer experience is locking the high level gear behind a very difficult and at the time very buggy single player long haul mission just like to do, right? And I want to ask you, do you think that sentiment holds weight? Because I kind of saw the Mega Hive as an answer to what the raid will be in terms of, hey, the raid is going to give you high level content that you can get like nowhere else in the game, and that is only accessible through multiplayer. But because there is a sizable audience that doesn't want to play the game multiplayer, that's what the Mega Hive is for. And I think the major reason why that opinion came out is because the Mega Hive released first, and we still don't know when the raid is coming.
Yeah, I honestly don't really know where I stand on this because I can see both sides of people wanting like more multiplayer content because right now it is sort of somewhat barren. Like if you've done everything already, like it's mostly just doing hives with your friends or just random missions. So the fact that they came out with the Mega Hive and it was solely like single player focused, I think the way when it works, because of course, as you mentioned, it doesn't work sometimes for people, which is really unfortunate. But when it works though, like the idea of going through gauntlet style with your team, specifically like with the Avengers that you've curated and like progressed and leveled up, I think that's interesting. And it seems like you can only do that from a single player perspective. So I think the bones of it are good. I think when you actually apply that to the game, it is a slog to get through, first of all. It takes forever. And also, like, you just can't do it with your friends, so it makes that grind even more grueling since you're just doing it by yourself, right? And for me, that's fine because this is a podcast game for me, and that's exactly what I do when I played. That's exactly what I did when I played the Mega Hive, just zoning out entirely. But for people who don't play the game like that, I can see that being, super annoying, and the fact that they can't play it with their friends to get through it is bothersome. So I can see both sides of it.
Yeah, assuming, because I think like there's a set number of exotics in the game, right? Like it's not like they're going to be adding a ton of exotics for the raid. I think it is you just have more guaranteed chances of getting exotics from the Mega Hive or the raid. Do you think that, let's just say the Mega Hive was the thing that was ready first. Do you think if they released the Mega Hive and then said, hey, we're thinking of releasing the raid within this window, that would have alleviated some of the frustration from the people that we're talking about right now, where they felt like kind of not lied to, but just like left in the dust of like, hey, I want multiplayer content for this high level gear. Like the raid is going to be that. So I feel like just saying a window would have helped a little bit,
Yeah, I think there needs to be more communication specifically about the raid. We are the number one Marvel's Avengers podcast, and we still don't even know what the raid technically is or when it's going to be coming. Well, I guess we know pretty much what it is, but we don't know when that thing's coming. And the fact that it's almost been a month, like we're getting up to that month marker, and the raid isn't there, which seems like sort of the draw for a lot of people. It's a little strange, and I think if they did mention that, then people's expectations would have been in check, being like, all right, at least we have this to sort of satiate us until the raid comes out. But yeah, as it stands right now, I guess they are kind of left in the dust, like what you were saying.
Yeah. So, Agents of Excelsior, if you're listening, we'd love to hear what you have to say about this. So YouTube comments, add us on Twitter, ExcelsiorJC. How do you feel about the Mega Hive thing? Are you just waiting for the raid? Was it kind of rough just getting hit with this very difficult single player content when you love it as a multiplayer game? Are you happy about that? I'm very curious to see what the listener base thinks about that. And the final question, the final talking point. The costumes for Kate Bishop leaked. And let me tell you, some of them, big fan. Mm-hmm. Really like how some of these look. I'm not going to go into detail about it, but let's just say there's some casual wear that I very much enjoy wearing that Kate's rocking, and it looks dope.
Yeah, I did not see any of the leaked skins or anything.
Yeah. So, that aside, even though there are a couple highlights there, I can't help but feel that the game, compared to other Marvel games, is kind of lacking when it comes to exciting costumes.
I would say even multiplayer games in general. Like, comparing this to Apex Legends, like, oof, this does not have it where it counts, I think.
Yeah, because basically every character basically has a handful of specific looks to them, and then we get a bunch of variations of different colors for those looks. And yeah, it's launch, I feel like you might want to save some of the exciting stuff. Like we talked about recently, there was a leak of a Santa Hulk costume. So like maybe you save the exciting stuff, maybe you save the MCU pack for a ways after launch, but like as of right now, I don't know how they'd be making money off these right now if you and I, huge Marvel fans, feel uncompelled to even spend our free currency on some of these outfits.
Yeah, they're pretty boring. The only ones I've done like in the vendor marketplace, like in the helicarrier, is just for my Iron Man, just to have them. Like I didn't even look at them and be like, oh, that one's cool. It was just like, I guess I'll just fill out my inventory because I have all these units and I'm not spending them. But man,
right, and that's
go for it.
I was gonna say those units aren't even the ones you have to pay for. Those are the ones you can earn in the game.
Right. And yeah, for the ones that you do have to pay for, the ones that you earn through the challenge card, the blue ones, those skins aren't even that tantalizing right now. Like we were talking about the Captain America one before we started recording, and oof, the one for this week is just so ugly. I can't believe that is worth like $10 essentially.
$10,
like,
yeah. Ugh. Yeah, and like, I think a lot of games that have that kind of marketplace early on, they're not exciting, but like, man, you got Marvel's Avengers. You got the entire Marvel universe to pull from for stuff. Like, yeah, I don't know. I think to a certain extent as well, like, if you have an Iron Man look that is iconic enough, maybe you don't need another look. But I feel like I can name at least like 5 different looks for Iron Man that aren't even just in the MCU that would be exciting, Like, I think there are looks for a bunch of these characters, or even maybe alternate skins of like, maybe we don't get Beta Ray Bill down the line as a full character, but putting that in the shop as a Thor skin, that'd be sick. Like, I think... Do you think that's coming? Or do you think it's just like these are the growing pains of it right now?
I think what you said, like the fact that it's, year one and like month one, like we're not going to get the best of the best right now. So, right. But it is interesting. It's bizarre though. Like, the fact that, like what you were saying, they have all of the comics and the movies and TV shows and like this vast history of different takes and different sort of drawings of these characters and what they're wearing. And we haven't really seen anything particularly exciting from anyone, really. Like, I can't even think of a standout costume. So it's somewhat worrisome. So I think that will be fixed, though.
Yeah, did you see the Thor one that was in the shop last week where he had like a zebra print, like Def Leppard looking outfit?
Ugh, I did not.
Yeah, Yeah, I saw that.
Yikes.
But yeah, I think it's a rough look if you compare it to something like Spider-Man on the PS4 that just has such a vast array of alternate outfits to unlock, and
Yeah.
I don't even think it's a thing of like, oh, even on top of it, that's free, because it's like, I'm not expecting that out of this game. But if you're charging money for this stuff, like, go all out, make it wild, like, make it something that I feel compelled to actually purchase.
Yeah, definitely. And I do hope, like, regardless of the paid cosmetics, I hope we get, I don't know how they would do this, but like maybe like every few months we'd get new challenge cards for the base heroes at least. That way, like, I'm already almost done with my first challenge card for Iron Man, right? So like if I'm playing in 6 months and I can't be earning anything for my Iron Man, like, what's the point? So I do hope somehow, even if it is like, hey, for 1,000 credits you can get a new challenge card and you'll get that back through the challenge card. That'd be cool. I kind of hope they do something like that.
Yeah, if they can manage to make that not even sustainable, but just like something they can actually do, of like they can figure out another, was it 40, 50 tiers of the challenge
It's
card?
40, yeah.
40? Yeah, if they can think of another 40 tiers and another 40 rewards to get out of a second season, if you will, for an Iron Man, like, or the base heroes, that'd be awesome. Honestly, right now, I'm not expecting that, just because it seems like the priority for them is just add new heroes and give them challenge cards. But it would be great if, maybe not in the next 6 months, but for year 2, we get a new batch. That'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
So, but unless you have any final statements on the state of the game this week, I think that does it for this week's episode.
I think that'll do it.
All right. Well, Jack, where can the agents of Excelsior find you?
You can find me on social media at FascinatedJack. If you like Pokemon, Christian and I have a Pokemon podcast called My First Mon. We did Pokemon Red and Blue last year. We're doing Crystal right now. And maybe we'll be doing something else sometime soon. So keep an eye out for that on youtube.com/joyclicks. What about you, Christian?
You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at Chris and Buckley. Like Jack said, here, youtube.com/joyclicks is where you are if you're watching the video version of this podcast. And if you're new there, we'd appreciate a thumbs up on the video because it helps the channel and us out a ton. And subscribing if you're new so you don't miss any episode of Excelsior, dropping every Saturday. The show is also available on audio services like Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as well as many others like Google Play, Stitcher, Pocket Casts. If you can rate or review the show on that platform, again, it would be greatly appreciated because it just takes a second and it helps us maintain the title of the world's #1 Marvel's Avengers podcast, which I am never going to stop saying.
Well, hopefully you never stop saying.
Oh, yeah. Manifest it. It's going to stay that way forever. We're the top of the game.
Unless Greg Miller comes out here and starts making his Marvel's Avengers podcast, or maybe Gary Whitta, perhaps, because he's been doing that recently. I think we might be set. So let's just not tell them about this. Let's be cool.
Yeah, honestly. And Greg, you know what? If you're listening, because I know you're probably staking out the competition, you can just come on the show. You don't have to be making your own show. You can just come on.
Yeah, sure.
So, but that's going to do it. Again, Agents of Excelsior, appreciate it. Thank you for watching every week. Appreciate the comments. Be sure to leave any comments on this week's talking points or stuff you want to hear us address next week on the YouTube channel. But until then, Excelsior.
Excelsior.